Welcome to the Hindu Daily. We're kicking things off today with a deep dive into a pretty major development project. It's the ambitious 81,000-core Great Nicobar Islands Plan. Massive undertaking, obviously, but, well, right from the get-go, it seems to be surrounded by controversy, especially around clearances, environmental and forest ones, and serious questions about forest rights violations.
Indeed. And the Calcutta High Court is actually hearing a series of petitions right now challenging the project's forest clearance specifically. At the heart of it, the argument, which was initially brought by a former official, Meena Gupta, is that the rules of the Forest Rights Act, the FRA from 2006, well, they just weren't followed.
Okay.
The petitioners are basically saying there was no proper tribal consent for diverting a really substantial area, 13,000 hectares of forest land.
13,000, wow.
Yeah, and the project itself is huge. A transshipment port, an airport, power plant, a whole new township. It's a total transformation plan for the area.
So what's going on with the ministries? It sounds a bit confusing. What does it mean when they seem to be sending mixed signals or maybe changing their tune? The Ministry of Tribal Affairs first wanted out of the petition, right? Right. Said FRA is a state or UT thing.
Exactly. That was their initial stance, asserting that implementation falls under the state or union territory's domain. But then, quite recently, they sort of reversed course. They asked for a factual report because of a fresh complaint from the Tribal Council of Little and Great Nicobar.
Huh. So that does raise the question, doesn't it? Were the proper FRA processes ever really followed?
Yeah.
Especially with that deputy commissioner's certificate from 2022 saying, all rights identified, consent obtained. It seems like a disconnect.
It certainly feels that way. The Ministry of Tribal Affairs, for its part, has consistently said its no objection certificate, the NOC from 2020, was based purely on the info the Andaman and Nicobar administration gave them.
Okay.
So they're essentially saying, we reviewed what we were given, implying the local administration needs to answer for the data. Meanwhile, the Environment Ministry, in its court filings, has been clear they're still waiting for a compliance report on, get this, 37 conditions tied to its Stage 1 clearance.
37.
Yes. And crucially, one of those explicitly requires FRA compliance. And on the other side, the island's administration has tried to just dismiss the petition, called it private interest litigation, basically suggesting the petitioners have other motives.
So the key takeaway here, really, is just how incredibly complex these large-scale projects get, especially in sensitive areas, ecologically and for tribal communities. What's happening in the Nicobars isn't just local. It really highlights this huge challenge of navigating clearances and rights. It can just descend into this legal and administrative mess. We'll probably see more of this, unfortunately. Okay, let's shift gears, moving to public health and something pretty fascinating in the fight against HIV. For decades, there was this huge hope around broadly neutralizing antibodies, BNABs they call them. I mean, imagine a single antibody that could take out loads of different HIV variants, a real game changer. People have been chasing that since, the B12 antibody discovery back in '94.
Absolutely. That initial discovery sparked enormous hope. But the sheer genetic variation of HIV, it's just proven to be an extraordinary hurdle. This virus is incredibly slippery, constantly mutating, evolving, getting really good at dodging the immune system. Even these powerful BNABs, you can have countless variants even inside one person. So this constant change means no single BNAB has been like a silver bullet. And that's exactly why this latest research from the Translational Health Science and Technology Institute in Faridabad is so important, because it focuses specifically on Indian HIV strains, helps us understand the local picture.
Right. So what did they find? What did this new study uncover about HIV here in India? Any unique resistance patterns? Or maybe vulnerabilities we could exploit?
Yeah, they found some really important things specific to Indian strains. They saw strong resistance to BNABs that target a particular spot on the virus, the V1, V2 apex.
Okay.
That spot's often a target, but it wasn't working so well against these local variants. However, and this is the good part, the Indian strains were actually most effectively neutralized by BNABs targeting another area, the V3 glycan. And also the ones aimed at the CD4 binding site worked pretty well too.
Interesting.
So, based on that, the researchers proposed a new cocktail, 3 specific BNABs, BG18N6 and PGDM 1400. They reckon this combo could neutralize a really large chunk of the circulating Indian HIV-1 strains very efficiently.
A cocktail, okay.
And what's also quite striking is the regional differences they saw. compared to South African strains, for example. Indian strains were more sensitive to some antibodies, like N6 and BG18, but a bit more resistant to others. Really highlights the geographical variation.
That raises a really important question then. What are the bigger implications of these regional differences for global health? Does it mean a sort of one-size-fits-all approach just won't cut it for HIV?
Exactly. That's precisely the point. The findings really hammer home that HIV's diversity lets it adapt differently in different parts of the world. So treatments or vaccines developed, say in North America, might not work as well elsewhere. Dr. Jayanta Bhattacharya, the lead researcher, specifically stressed the need for region-specific prevention strategies. That could mean tailored passive immunization for high-risk groups, using antibody cocktails known to work against local variants, or designing vaccines to trigger responses against the strains actually circulating in a specific area.
Makes sense.
So continuous surveillance of this viral diversity, constantly checking antibody effectiveness, it's absolutely crucial for guiding clinical development globally, making sure our efforts are actually impactful.
So the vital takeaway here is that HIV's amazing adaptability means we really need highly localized research. We need specific strategies for truly effective global solutions. It just shows how complex developing universal treatments or vaccines really is, and why these deep regional studies, like this one from India, are absolutely essential in the bigger picture. Let's pivot now to a topic of growing global concern: mental health. Recent WHO reports World Mental Health Today and the Mental Health Atlas 2024, they paint a pretty stark picture. Over 1 billion people dealing with mental health disorders globally. It's the second leading cause of long-term disability.
Staggering numbers.
And the economic cost is huge, too. Depression and anxiety alone costing the global economy, what, an estimated $1 trillion a year? These aren't just numbers, are they? It's immense human suffering, immense economic burden. Needs urgent attention.
It's truly a pressing issue, and while, yes, we've seen some progress, maybe more countries adopting better policies, the reports also show these significant, persistent gaps. For example, women are disproportionately affected by mental health conditions, right across the board. And suicide, despite maybe more awareness, it's still devastating, claimed around 727,000 lives in 2021 alone.
Oh, wow.
And what's really worrying is how slowly we're moving towards the UN Sustainable Development Goal target for reducing suicide rates. The aim was a 1/3 reduction by 2030. Projections show maybe only 12%.
It's not good.
No. The global commitment just isn't matching the scale of the crisis.
So looking at this globally, what are the biggest roadblocks? What's stopping effective mental health care, both around the world and maybe specifically here in India? Is it funding, policy, or, deeper societal stuff?
It's really a mix of all of those things. The reports detail several major systemic flaws. A big one is just stagnation in investment. Median government spending is stuck at just 2% of total health budgets. Hasn't changed since 2017. That underfunding is critical.
Only 2%.
Yeah. Compounding that is a severe shortage of mental health workers. Globally, the median is just 13 workers per 100,000 people. Paltry. Plus, the shift towards community-based care, which is needed, is happening incredibly slowly. And then you have these huge disparities between low and high-income countries. Less than 10% get care in low-income nations versus over 50% in higher-income ones. It's a massive global health divide.
That's a very sobering picture.
Yeah.
How does India measure up against these global challenges? Are we seeing similar issues, or does India have its own unique set of hurdles?
India certainly faces many of these global problems, but yes, some specific local ones too. Stigma is a colossal barrier. It leads to widespread reluctance to even seek help.
Right, that's huge here.
And that's often made worse by a critical lack of manpower. We're talking roughly 0.7 psychiatrists per 100,000 people, way below the WHO's recommendation of 3 per 100,000.
0.7, that's incredibly low.
It is. And while, yes, there's been some progress on infrastructure, telemental health is expanding. The actual mental health budget for India has stayed pretty stagnant, hovering around 1,000 crore rupees in recent years. This persistent underfunding, plus challenges in actually using the funds effectively for community programs, remains a major concern, really impacts the reach and quality of care.
So the crucial insight is that despite growing awareness globally, mental health is still this deep crisis. It's a stark paradox, isn't it? We acknowledge the huge human and economic cost, but these critical gaps, funding, policy, resources, they severely limit effective care. And for countries like India, these challenges are amplified by stigma and this huge demand-supply imbalance. It really demands a much more robust, integrated approach. Okay, now let's turn our focus to Nepal. There was a situation back on September 4th, 2025, where a seemingly technical government decision to ban 26 social media platforms. Well, it basically ignited a political earthquake.
Yeah, citing non-compliance, wasn't it?
Exactly. And what started as peaceful, Gen Z-led protests just escalated incredibly quickly. Violent confrontations, government buildings attacked, even parliament. And it all culminated in the prime minister resigning just days later. That social media ban became the spark.
It's fascinating because while the ban was the immediate trigger, you're right, the roots go much deeper. For young Nepalists especially, social media isn't just for venting, it's vital for communication and, crucially, for business. So many Nepalists work abroad, right? They rely on these platforms.
Absolutely.
But underneath that practical layer were these really profound, long, simmering grievances, rampant corruption, misgovernance, and what people call the musical chairs power struggle. Since the 2015 constitution, the traditional parties and leaders, Oli, Prachanda, Doba, they've just been in this cycle of shifting alliances, short governments.
Right, instability.
Exactly, which leads to economic stagnation, lack of opportunity for youth, widespread disillusionment. It was all just simmering, waiting for something to set it off.
So what made this Gen Z movement really different from Nepal's previous big agitations? Like Jan Andolan 1 back in 1990 or Jan Andolan 2 in 2006. Was it just the tech or was there a bigger shift?
That's a really key distinction. Unlike Jan Andolan 1, which ended the panchayat system, or Jan Andolan 2, which ended the monarchy and set up the republic, both largely led by established political parties.
Okay.
The 2025 protests were emphatically youth-driven, no traditional party links. They organized mainly through social media, Instagram, Discord. And while earlier movements aimed to change the political system, this uprising targeted the political class itself within the existing democratic republic.
Ah, right. Challenging the leaders, not the structure.
Precisely. Their demands were radical. Dissolve parliament, bring in new leadership from outside the usual parties, fundamentally questioning the legitimacy of the existing elite. Now, there was some violence, which activists blamed on infiltrators, and there has been some pro-monarchist activity lately leading to speculation. But the core Gen Z movement felt very different in its leadership, organization, and goals.
So after the PM resigned, there was this 3-day power vacuum. And then an interim PM was appointed. How did that actually happen in such a chaotic environment?
That power vacuum was intense. Finding an interim leader involved complex talks between the president's office, the army, and crucially, these newly prominent Gen Z leaders. Army Chief General Ashokar Sigdel played a key mediating role behind the scenes.
Okay.
And this nonprofit, Hami Nepal, led by a 36-year-old Sudan Gurung, they gained huge public trust through disaster relief work and became a key voice for the protesters. The Gen Z youth, through their online networks, collectively backed former Supreme Court Chief Justice Sushila Karki.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, and President Ramchandra Pudel appointed her. But it was done under Article 61 of the Constitution, dealing with presidential powers, and explicitly cited as being under extraordinary circumstances, acknowledging the unprecedented public pressure.
Which immediately brings up a sticky point. The interim PM then recommended dissolving parliament almost right away. Was that even constitutional, given how things happened? And Nepal's 2015 constitution.
Constitutionally, it's highly problematic, widely seen as questionable. Nepal's constitution, Article 76(7), only allows dissolving parliament after specific steps involving failed PM appointments have been tried. It's meant as a last resort in a stable process.
Not just because of protests.
Exactly. And Article 66(2) says presidential actions generally need the Council of Ministers' recommendation. There's no provision for dissolving parliament just because of protests or an interim government formed under extraordinary circumstances like this. So major parties, the Nepal Bar Association, they all condemned it as unconstitutional, arbitrary, suggests strong grounds for Supreme Court review. It basically bypassed all the established procedures.
So the takeaway from Nepal's Gen Z uprising is really this powerful example of a youth-led, digitally coordinated movement challenging the establishment. It just lays bare the flaws in governance when traditional parties fail. And beyond the immediate politics, it highlights these complex, messy constitutional issues when people push for a more responsive democracy, a struggle we see elsewhere too. Okay, let's shift our attention back to India now. There's been a pretty significant legislative change that just came into effect, the new Immigration and Foreigners Act 2025. It's a comprehensive law meant to modernize and consolidate how India handles foreigners and immigration, replacing several older laws, some really old ones.
Yeah, it's a major effort to streamline things. The main idea is clear. Get rid of the multiple overlapping older laws that sometimes created confusion or inefficiency. The Act's core goal is to regulate everything concerning foreigners, visas, registration, immigration more holistically.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the provisions might have existed before in notifications or orders, but this new act formalizes them, and it adds several updated clauses and conditions. These are meant to reflect modern changes in global migration, security concerns, and India's evolving relationship with people coming from other countries.
Okay, so getting into the specifics.
Yeah.
What are some of the practical changes? For authorities and for foreigners living here or visiting, how will things actually be different?
There are several quite significant changes. For one, the rules now legally designate the Bureau of Immigration, the BOI, with explicit powers to examine cases of immigration fraud and to coordinate better with states and, crucially, maintain a national immigration database. While BOI did similar things before, now it's codified in law. Clearer authority.
Okay, formalizing it.
Another big one.
Wow.
Legal provision for recording biometric information of all foreigners. Before, this was often restricted or done via executive orders. Now it's a broad legal mandate.
All foreigners, that's a big expansion.
It is. Also, educational institutions have new responsibilities. They now have to report foreign students' academic performance and conduct, semester-wise, to the foreigners' regional registration offices, the FRROs. And maybe most critically, the power to shut down premises frequented by undesirable people now explicitly includes illegal migrants. Broadens the scope of enforcement quite a bit.
It definitely sounds like a tightening of regulations, which brings us to foreigners' tribunals, especially in Assam. Their role seems to have shifted significantly.
Yes, the role of foreigners' tribunals, or NFTs, has really changed. NFTs used to be pretty much unique to Assam, but under this new act, they've been given the powers of a first-class judicial magistrate.
Wow, judicial magistrate powers.
It's a substantial upgrade in authority. It means they can issue arrest warrants if someone doesn't show up when their nationality is questioned. And, crucially, they can send people to detention centers if they fail to prove they are not foreigners. Assam currently has 100 FTs, numbers boosted after the NRC in 2019 flagged many people.
Right, the NRC connection.
And the new order also legalizes something border forces were already doing, preventing illegal entry by recording biometrics of those trying to cross. Further shores up the legal basis for border control.
Given all these new, quite expansive provisions, are there specific groups or nationalities who are exempt from this act?
Yes, there are specific exemptions laid out. Nepalese, Bhutanese, and Tibetans continue to be exempt from many provisions, reflecting long-standing ties and agreements. Additionally, 2 new categories are now explicitly exempted. First, Sri Lankan Tamil nationals who took shelter in India up to January 9, 2015. They're exempt from passport and visa rules.
Okay.
Second, the notification also exempts undocumented members of 6 specific minority communities: Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis, and Christians from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, as long as they entered India before December 31st, 2024. They're exempt from penalties and deportation under this act. But it's important to note, while those minorities from the 3 countries can apply for long-term visas towards citizenship, that pathway doesn't apply to the Sri Lankan Tamils under this framework.
So the key insight here is that India has really consolidated and updated its laws on foreigners. It centralizes power, expands data collection like biometrics, and boosts the judicial power of foreigners' tribunals. It's designed for efficiency and security, marking a new era in immigration management, but balanced with these specific, carefully defined exemptions for certain communities.
Okay, let's switch gears completely now. Let's talk about something maybe many of us can relate to: the cinema experience. The author describes coming back from, world-class film festivals and finding the cinema experience back home in India, often subpar, screens that look dim, dull, washed out.
Yeah, it's a common complaint.
Film critic Bharadwaj Rangan nailed it, saying, "People talk about the big screen experience, but why will you go when the quality is so poor? I can get a much better picture at home."
Ouch. But true for many.
It really feels like a country obsessed with cinema is often dropping the ball on the core visual experience. Absolutely. And the core issue, really, is the projector. The beating heart of the cinema, as the author puts it, is often the weak link here. It boils down to this heavy reliance on older lamp projectors versus the newer laser projectors.
Time versus laser. Okay.
Senthil Kumar from Queb Cinema pointed out that only maybe 10 to 15% of India's, 9,000 screens, only
Mhm.
that small fraction uses laser.
Only 10–15%, that's it.
Yeah. So this widespread use of older tech is really the main reason for the inconsistent, often dim picture quality people are noticing more and more. It's a big tech lag impacting the very thing you go for.
I can totally relate to that. I
Mm.
remember watching Brahmayugam, the Mammootty film, in Chennai. It's black and white, right?
Yeah.
I went in expecting this amazing artistic look.
High contrast, deep blacks.
Exactly. But the screen just looked
Yeah.
flat, dull gray all over.
Mm.
Honestly, I felt cheated. Especially later, I saw the trailer on my phone, and it looked completely different. Crisp, rich blacks and whites. My phone looked better than the cinema.
Oh, that's painful to hear, but it's unfortunately way too common. It resonates with filmmakers, too. Cinematographer Shanad Jalal, who actually worked on Brahmayugam, calls it a nightmare for many cinematographers.
I bet.
Seeing their carefully crafted work shown with low brightness, bad contrast, maybe even cropped wrong. The technical reason is simple. Lamp projectors lose brightness as they age. Replacing the lamp costs money, maybe up to 50,000 rupees every few months.
The cost.
So exhibitors, trying to save money, either delay replacing it or worse, they run the projectors at lower brightness from the start to make the lamp last longer, and then dim it even more after the first week or so.
Seriously?
Yeah, it directly compromises the picture. We even heard about that film enthusiast, Kushan Patel, who complained about a dim screening of Sinners and actually got them to restart it brighter. Shows the audience can make a difference sometimes.
So do average moviegoers even notice this? Or have we all just kind of gotten used to mediocre quality? Is awareness growing?
I think, while maybe most people don't complain formally, awareness is growing. Cinematographer Manesh Madhavan made a great point. Even a 10,000 rupee Android phone has a good, bright screen.
True.
So the public has a better idea now of how a picture ought to look. Our devices are setting a higher standard. He also mentioned digital projection kind of ended the old system where print quality varied between A, B, C centers. Now, bad projection can happen anywhere, even in formerly great places like Chennai's Satyam Cinemas, which sadly has seen a dip in quality recently. People's visual literacy is definitely increasing.
Which brings up this real irony, doesn't it? Exhibitors spend fortunes on luxury stuff, recliner seats, fancy food.
Gourmet popcorn, yeah.
Right. But they neglect the core thing,
Yeah.
how the film actually looks. Feels like misplaced priorities.
It absolutely is a classic case of misplaced priorities, focusing on the extras, the comfort, while the fundamental quality of the image, the whole reason you're there, gets ignored. That's why people in the industry, like audiographer S. Krishnan, keep talking about the need for standardization, a real push for industry associations to set benchmarks, make sure films are shown the way filmmakers intended, preserve the art.
But okay, despite all this, it's not all bad news, right? There is hope. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, literally, with new tech.
Definitely. The industry is shifting, slowly but surely. While lamps still dominate, new installs and upgrades are increasingly going laser. Laser projectors cost more upfront, 60 lakh to a crore maybe, but no recurring lamp costs. And they last over 20,000 hours with consistent quality, no degradation like lamps.
Right, removes the incentive to dim them?
Exactly. And we're seeing more premium, large format screens, IMAX laser, Quibes EPIQ. They use these top-tier laser projectors for much higher brightness, really immersive pictures. Like filmmaker Sanju Surendran traveling to Broadway cinemas in Commutator for films like Oppenheimer because they maintain quality. Tejal Satish there talked about strict calibration, maintenance. It shows quality is possible with commitment.
So looking even further ahead, what's next? What's the cutting edge for that truly immersive cinema experience?
Well, right at the forefront, you've got these next-gen systems really pushing boundaries. Dolby Cinema debuted in Pune, praised for amazing contrast, deep blacks, incredible depth.
Okay.
Then there's HDR by Barco, first seen in Visakhapatnam, offers this unbelievably bright, dynamic picture. Dazzling, they called it. And we're seeing huge LED screens emerge like Samsung Onyx or Quibes EPIQ Luxon in Hyderabad. The whole screen is basically a massive, vibrant display.
Like a giant TV, almost.
Kind of. Now, these systems are expensive, use more energy, but they promise unprecedented quality. Like that theater manager, Dasari Gauri Shankar, said, their screen fills up first because people know the experience is special. This growing demand for premium hopefully pushes more exhibitors to invest in the core viewing quality. Bring back the magic.
So the crucial takeaway seems to be that India's huge cinema audience is often getting shortchanged with dim, inconsistent projection because of old tech and cost-cutting. But new tech and growing audience awareness offer hope for a brighter future. If exhibitors prioritize the actual viewing experience over just the fancy seats, it has to be about the screen first. Okay, let's move to a really inspiring story now about social change, focusing on Safeena Husain, her recent Ramon Magsaysay Award, and her nonprofit, Educate Girls. She told this powerful story about an 18-year-old girl married at 8, celebrating a learning milestone. It just shows how one person's vision can change lives, define norms.
It's compelling, especially how her own personal journey fueled her mission. She talks very openly about a turbulent childhood, her own education getting interrupted after class 12 for 3 years. She described feeling given up on, dealing with guilt and shame. It was an aunt's support, and eventually getting her degree from the London School of Economics that really shifted how she saw herself.
Well,
And that feeling being seen differently by the world, that's what she wanted to bring to millions of other girls facing even bigger hurdles, that sense of transformation.
that's a really powerful motivation. So tell us about the School of Educate Girls. What specific problems does it tackle in India?
The scale is immense, and the impact is huge. They work in around 30,000 villages across some of the toughest states for girls' education: Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar. Their results are remarkable. They've identified and brought over 2 million out-of-school girls back into formal education.
2 million, wow.
Yeah. And just as many have benefited from their basic literacy and numeracy programs essential for catching up. Plus, they run a special Pragati Second Chance program. This targets older girls who can't get back into formal school due to age or other reasons, gives them another pathway. Around 30,000 girls have graduated from that program already. Shows the need for flexible options.
These second chance programs sound so vital. What are the barriers in India that make them necessary? It sounds like more than just individual circumstances.
Oh, absolutely. It's a whole system of societal and structural issues. Early marriage is a huge factor, often prioritized over schooling. Girls carry a disproportionate burden of household chores, leaving little time. Mobility restrictions, especially as they get older, limit access to schools further away. And then there's a big structural problem in the education system itself. For every 100 primary schools, there are only about 40 middle schools and just 24 secondary schools. Access just plummets as they age.
That funnel gets narrow very quickly.
Exactly. And even for those who continue, there's immense pressure, anxiety, the threat of being pulled out or married off if they don't perform well. It's a tough landscape.
But despite these huge challenges, Husain has been doing this for 2 decades. She must have seen some significant shifts and progress.
Yes, absolutely. There have been tangible, positive changes. She's seen things like separate toilets for girls becoming more common in schools, a massive factor for keeping girls enrolled. National campaigns like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao have raised awareness, acknowledged the problem nationally. The Right to Education Act provides a legal basis.
Right.
And she shared this incredibly powerful anecdote. A father who was fiercely against educating his daughter years ago recently came to her and said, "You have to educate girls. The world is built for the educated. If we are not educated, we will be exploited like animals."
Wow, what a transformation.
Exactly. That shift in individual attitudes alongside her own journey, her interfaith marriage, her daughter's understanding her mission, it shows how deep change is slowly taking root.
So the essential insight from Safeena Husain and Educate Girls is really this powerful example of how personal experience can fuel massive social change. Her work just brilliantly shows that by tackling these deep systemic barriers and offering second chances, millions of girls' lives can be fundamentally changed through education. Proves that even huge challenges can be overcome. Okay, moving from social impact now to spiritual journeys. I remember watching the film Jada Akbar years ago, and that Sufi song, Khwaja Mir Khwaja. The visuals were stunning.
Beautiful song.
And what I thought was just amazing choreography I later learned was actually something much deeper, a centuries-old spiritual practice.
That's a great observation. You likely saw a depiction of the Sema ceremony. It's a profound ritual performed by the Whirling Dervishes of the Mevlevi order. This mystical branch of Islam was founded way back in the 13th century by followers of the famous Persian poet and mystic Rumi.
Rumi, right?
Rumi, who was born in what's now Afghanistan, eventually settled in Konya in modern Turkey. That's where his mausoleum is, and where they still have an annual festival celebrating him, featuring these mesmerizing dervishes.
So beyond just looking incredible, what does the whirling actually symbolize? Is it just meditation and motion, or is there more to it?
It's a deeply symbolic spiritual journey, very structured. The name Sema comes from the Arabic Sema, meaning to listen. Legend says Rumi first started whirling spontaneously in a bazaar, listening to the rhythm of gold beaters. The ceremony has 7 parts, each marking a stage. It's a journey from acknowledging the creator to experiencing unity with the divine. Even their clothes are symbolic. The tall felt cap, the sikh, represents the ego's tombstone. The white robe, the tenure, is a burial shroud, shedding earthly desires. The black cloak they shed, the hurka, represents worldly attachments left behind.
Wow, every detail has meaning.
Exactly. And the whirling itself mirrors planets rotating. With the sheik, the leader, as the sun at the center, they raise their right hand to receive God's grace, lower the left hand to channel it to the earth, becoming conduits, really.
It's incredible that such an ancient practice has this global recognition now.
Absolutely. UNESCO recognized Sema as intangible cultural heritage of humanity back in 2005, highlighting its 800-year tradition. And today, it's become more inclusive, too, with women actively participating as whirling dervishes. So it's evolving while preserving its deep history and spiritual core.
So the key takeaway from the Whirling Dervishes is that Sema isn't just a dance. It's this deeply symbolic, ancient spiritual practice from Rumi's teachings, representing a journey of surrender, connection to the divine. Recognized globally, becoming more inclusive, it still offers this timeless path to inner peace. Okay, let's travel now to Paris. The author shares this really poignant experience, Notre Dame being mostly inaccessible after the 2019 fire during his time there. Yet, even behind all the scaffolding, it was still this huge tourist magnet. Remarkable, isn't it? A cathedral that burned but never stopped drawing crowds, and now its rebirth is something else.
The resilience is extraordinary. It's 860 years old. Construction started way back in 1163. It survived the French Revolution, major restoration in the 19th century. The 2019 fire was devastating, but the restoration effort that followed was massive. Incredible engineering, craftsmanship, including that controversial use of 1,000 historic oak trees for the roof, Le Forêt.
Right, I remember hearing about that.
Artisans from all over France working daily. We're seeing milestones now, statues restored, the towers reopening soon. Though the full renovation goes on till 2026, the progress is amazing.
What's so striking is that Notre Dame isn't just a church, is it? It really feels like the absolute heart of Paris. Everything seems to revolve around it.
It really does. Its location on the Ile de la Cité is the historic center. It connects everything. You've got the Latin Quarter with the Sorbonne on one side, Hôtel Dieu, one of the world's oldest hospitals right there, the Marais, the old Jewish quarter, now the gay district on the other side, and that big square in front is just this vibrant meeting point. Musicians, tourists, couples, joggers, a real cross-section of Paris.
The author tells this lovely story about queuing for a Mozart concert, realizing he needed reservations, and meeting a woman reviving a family tradition with her little 4-year-old daughter.
That's beautiful.
It just shows how deeply ingrained it is, not just in history, but in people's personal lives, their traditions.
Perfectly captures it. And inside now, post-restoration, the walls are apparently luminous, cleaned of centuries of grime. There are modern touches, contactless payments for candles, but it's still this incredible museum, too. Housing the Crown of Thorns, but also 20th century art by Matisse brick.
Wow.
It blends the ancient and modern, sacred and artistic so seamlessly. That's why it holds such a place in people's lives, still evolving as the renovation continues.
Which leads to this really moving observation the author makes, seeing a line of immigrants outside the police station nearby, and wondering how many prayers are whispered to a God they might never actually enter the cathedral to see. It's powerful.
It's a deeply moving thought. It really speaks to Notre Dame's universal appeal, its magic, its presence, its symbolism. It transcends faith, nationality. Whether you go inside or not, it stands as this testament to human spirit, hope, resilience. It touches people, makes, as the author says, a convert of us all to its enduring magic.
So the essential insight from Notre Dame's rebirth isn't just about architecture. It's a testament to its enduring cultural, historical, spiritual significance as the heart of Paris. It connects its deep past to a diverse present, embodying this incredible human endeavor, but also hope and the power of these sacred spaces to inspire everyone. Ultimately, whether we're talking about rebuilding cathedrals, tackling global health, or the future of protest movements, these stories show this constant tension, don't they, between preserving the past, dealing with the present, pushing for the future. How do we, globally, balance tradition and innovation, local needs and global goals, individual rights and collective progress in a way that actually serves everyone? It's the question that keeps coming up in these deep dives. Thank you for listening. If you want to provide suggestions, please contact on the Twitter handle given in the episode description. As always, we are eager to hear what our listeners want to be informed about. We wish you a great day.